Hey, how you doing? So I'm doing the reading summary for the book Iliad, books 1 and 22. So the author of the book is Homer, and the genre of the book is epic poetry. And an interesting fact about the author is that he also wrote the Odyssey. So both of these books are one of his most popular books around. Like everyone knows about his book, everyone has read about his book. His books are taught throughout schools all across the country. So that's the interesting fact about him. So in book one, the narrator begins. Well, Homer begins 9 years after the start of this war. So two women named Chris and Briseis were taken by the Achilles and Agmenum. I'm sorry about these names. I know I'm probably messing them up, but I'm trying my best. So they was taken by the two members of the Achaean army, and Achilles was one of the strongest, like best soldiers, warrior, and Agmenon was the commander in chief, so he was the head or whatever. So they took both of them. And Creed's father begged, it was like he begged him so bad to return his daughter back to him. He didn't want his daughter to get taken, of course, like any other father would. So he begged him to take him back, but he just didn't take him back. So the father ended up crying out to Apollo, and Apollo was the god. So the Apollos answered his prayers by sending out this plague, this disease that killed so many soldiers. And after 10 days of suffering, Achilles, because it was on the Greek camp, so that's the Achaean army. So the plague was on them. So after 10 days of them suffering, Achilles formed this army of the rest of the people who can, fight. And they just set out to find this soothsayer who can tell them, like, who actually put this plague on them, what's going on, how did this happen, like, just give them answers, basically. So he ends up finding out that the Apollos and Creed's father. So he like, okay, I gotta do something because I can't keep letting my men get hurt because I took this lady. So he finally agrees to return Chris, but only if Achilles returned Briseis. But in the end, Chris was returned back on the ship to her father, and Agmenic sent a herald out so that they can go get Briseis from Achilles' camp, from his tent. So they had to go get her, but Chris was already on the ship on the way back to her father. So then they ended up meeting again. So she got back with her father. Everything was safe. Everything was fine. And then the father told Apollo that to lift the plague that he had put on them. So the plague was over. And that's how that story ended. So in book 22, Achilles was being hunted by, again, he was being hunted and chased by Apollo, which is, of course, one of the guys. He was running all the way to Troy's wall. And at this point, Hector was the only one standing outside to fight Achilles. Like, he was ready to fight Achilles to death, and he knew what he was getting himself into. But of course, he still, kind of sort of risked his life for the people he loved. So they end up getting into a fight, and so the guys, knowing that Hector's fate was already death, they tricked him into fighting in an unwinnable fight. Like they had this plan out. Like said that this person was gonna one of his brothers was gonna back him up. They was gonna fight him together. They said that y'all can defeat him together. But once the fight started, he looked back and didn't see his brother anymore. So he was left by himself, and he already knew something was up when he was trying to strike at him, and then it barely even did anything to him. But when Hector got hit, Hector was, he hit Hector in the weak spot. So Hector was done with. So Hector ended up dying. But after he ended up dying, Achilles ties Hector to his back of his chariot and just drags him through this, just drag his body through this, like, have no respect or nothing like that. And Hector's only wish was to get sent back to his home, but of course Achilles wasn't having that, so he didn't do that. He just dragged him in the dust, and that's so sad. But one thing I can say I liked about this story was that I liked how Hector fought and died protecting his city, because like that's like honor, that's integrity, like that has a lot to do with a person's character. So I really liked it about him. So I can truly say that Hector was my favorite character because of his actions and how he showed the care for others and how he was willing to die, you know, put himself out there, you know. So I really liked that about himself, and I didn't have any dislikes or whatever, no doubts, no questions, but I really just enjoyed this piece. But that's all for me, and thank you. Have a nice day.